Happy New Year, everyone. It's good to have you with us. I'm Wyatt Sharpe, and welcome to Forum Focus. We are now into 2026. 2025 certainly itself was chaotic. Justin Trudeau resigning as Prime Minister, Mark Carney becoming Liberal leader and subsequently Prime Minister after a snap election, with the Liberals winning a narrow minority government. Pierre Poilievre holding the Conservative leadership amid some defections within his party, and Donald Trump's tariffs looming over everything. But today we're going to be looking ahead to 2026 with someone who knows Canadian politics inside and out, and that is former federal and Ontario Cabinet Minister Tony Clement. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be on your program. Happy New Year.
Of course, let's just start out with what you foresee the big picture being with respect to where Canada stands politically as we start the year.
Well, I think that obviously for a lot of people who are watching your show, Wyatt, the big issue continues to be affordability, the price of groceries, the price of housing, all of these bread and butter issues. So I think they're going to want to see some improvement in those metrics. The other thing politically that could be looming in 2026 is the possibility of not one but two secession referenda in this country, one in
Mhm.
Alberta and one in the province of Quebec if the Parti Québécois wins the next provincial election there. So that could really be a factor in a lot of uncertainty in Canada. And when you have uncertainty, it's not just political uncertainty, but you have economic uncertainty at the same time.
And it's interesting you mentioned the Alberta example because certainly 2025 was, plagued by intergovernmental affairs battles, if you will, with provinces like Alberta going back and forth with the federal government on a number of issues. Even if you look to the issue of trade, that's of course been kind of dogging our political climate, where you had Doug Ford put out that ad that was basically quoting Ronald Reagan, and it created a little bit of tension between him and Mark Carney and the federal government. I just wonder kind of how you foresee, given that you yourself have served both at the provincial and federal level, the relations going between the provinces and the federal government, given 2025 wasn't the best year in terms of the track record for that.
Right. And one of the factors, not only the factors that you mentioned, but of course, other factors do play into that, particularly when the federal government sees a lot of pressure when it comes to its own budget. Now, we had a budget by Mark Carney near the end of the year. It added about $78 billion to the federal deficit. So not a lot of hard choices there, but their hard choices are looming. And the moment the federal government starts to cut back on various programs that the provinces see as part of what they want from the federal government, you're going to get additional friction to the stuff that we saw in 2025.
I want to ask you too about the positioning of Pierre Poilievre. Of course, he in January this time last year, he was kind of a shoe-in to be prime minister. Everybody thought he was going to be prime minister, but from the conservatives who I've had on my show, most of them kind of come with the same messaging, articulating that they believe as if Pierre Poilievre kind of, and the conservatives more broadly, mistaked the idea that people were voting in favor of him, and instead, in actuality, in many ways, they were just simply voting against Justin Trudeau. And so when Mark Carney came in as Liberal leader, he kind of created that new sense of fiscal responsibility. And, he was kind of the new guy on the street that really kind of incentivized people to get out there and vote. And I wonder how you foresee those dynamics coming into play in 2026, especially with the leadership review that's coming up in Calgary.
Yeah, there were two major factors in the election result. One was the demise of Justin Trudeau, but the other one was the swearing in of Donald Trump. And clearly, with a certain segment of the population, the threats of Donald Trump outweighed any other factor. I would make this point, however, if you were under 55 years of age, you tended to vote conservative.
Hmm.
Not all, but a lot did. If you're over 55, you tended to vote liberal. And no one seemed to be voting NDP, at least in large enough numbers for the
Yeah.
NDP. So, in that situation, Pierre Poilievre has some work to do with one segment of the population, which is the over 55s. But he's still, latest polling indicates this as well. He's still polling very well with 18 to 29-year-olds and 30 to 44-year-olds and 45 to 55-year-olds. So I think he's got some work to do, but I think that he's still polling very well given the circumstances.
All right, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to look at some of the domestic challenges that Canada has been facing. Of course, as Tony pointed out, the things like affordability, trade, a number of other examples as well, and how Canada's been dealing with them, but also what people can expect over the course of the next year as well. Stay with us, we'll be right back.